Basically, we're going to start doing a tutorial on how to work in InDesign to create your industrial technology portfolio. So Adobe InDesign is a lot like Photoshop and Illustrator and a little bit like Muse, except it's really good at working on documents that have multiple pages. It's basically the professional level layout design program. So when you open it for the first time, you probably will just see something like this, and you want to go File, New, Document. So this is the document setup, and you can see that there's a lot of different things that you can put in here. You can actually make websites and ebooks in InDesign. We're not going to be doing that in this video, and you can choose your paper size, all your standards, the amount of pages that you want to have. So you can go anywhere from like 1 to 500 pages or whatever. I'm sure you can get more than that. You can put in columns to help align objects. We'll be doing that in a later video. And you can basically change your margins, which are the sides of your page. You don't usually want to design all the way to the edge. So you can set up some margins. These are some basic print safe ones, which means they'll work on any printer. And then you've got bleed and slug. Those are some additional printer mark lines that we don't really need to worry about unless you're doing sort of like a professional print run where you want to sort of print pictures all the way to the edge. So for now, I'll start with one page, but you can go into a window and bring up pages, and you can add a new page by just the little folded slide, just like you would add in a new Photoshop layout. Okay, so here would be my starting page, my front page. You can see that they've all got A there, which means they're using this A master page. So if you've used Muse before or some other Adobe programs, you're probably aware of how master pages work. Basically, what you do on this page up the top here will be replicated on any of these pages down the bottom. So things like page numbers, maybe like page design, so a colorful header and footer, something to make your page look interesting. That's what you want to work on your master pages. You can have multiple master pages in InDesign, and it just helps you to create items that will be, consistent in terms of their design. Anyway, so InDesign doesn't really work the same way Photoshop does, in that you can copy and paste a picture in or drag a picture in and it's there forever. InDesign instead makes links to images, and then if you move that image, it kind of stuffs up the entire file. So kind of like After Effects, you'll know if you've used that, if you ever move the image, it kind of stuffs around and disappears, and the program doesn't know what to do, and you have to relink it. So the first thing that you need to do with any InDesign file is you want to create your own folder. So I've got a folder in here that I've put a whole bunch of images into. What I want to do within that folder is I want to create a new folder for the InDesign document, and then I want to create another folder for the images. So I got my other one for images, and then I want to drag all my images into there. Any image that I'm using after this stays in here and doesn't get moved. I then want to save my InDesign file into that InDesign folder. So if I go down, let's see what I've got. InDesign tutorials, InDesign, and I can save my file there. And that will give me actually two files in the InDesign. It will give me the InDesign file and then a working file. So basically, whenever the file is open, it'll create this lock file. Whenever the file is closed, the lock file disappears. So there we go, as a demonstration. So I open it up again, and I've got my file here. So if I want to copy and paste an image into this, what I actually have to do is go File, Place. I find my image in my folder, and I paste it in. So I click, and it gives me, in this case, quite a large folder, and it's got a link next to it, so kind of a chain link there. And that shows me that the file is linked. What it does by linking it is it keeps your file size small. If you had a gigantic, really high resolution, picture heavy image and you had 500 of them in a book, you'd start getting files that were like a gigabyte in size, which would take ages to load and would cause your computer to slow down. We've seen this in Adobe After Effects. So InDesign gets around that by linking the files. So I've got this image here. It's too big for the page. I want to make it smaller. If I just click and drag like in another program, InDesign does something weird compared to the other Adobe stuff. It actually just crops it. So the crop there might actually be good because I only want this area here. But to make something smaller, I actually have to hold down Shift and Command and then go. So Shift and Command, and then you can use it and it will change the size of your image. Okay, so if I wanted to do some text, it works exactly the same. So you can click and start writing. No, with InDesign, sorry, you have to click and drag your text box out to the side, and then you can start writing however you want. After that, it's pretty similar to any of the other word processing programs. You highlight it, you can change the text to whatever you want, you can change your size in this simplified version of it, and what you'll notice I've got here now is a little red dot. So the reason for that is because I put in too much text and it ran out of room on my text box, so it moves to the next line. So what you can do is you can actually click on that red dot and it gives you another text box that you could move to somewhere else. But the nice thing about this one is if you keep typing, it continues down to the next line. So theoretically, you could set up several text boxes over several pages and keep transferring that information down to other areas. And then anytime you add something in, it keeps pushing it down to the other page. So that can be really useful. You can set up some default designs with text boxes and things of that nature, and it just continues and flows on. So there's a whole lot of other stuff in InDesign that we probably won't need to use in this project. So you can make interactive buttons, you can make animations, you can do all sorts of things. But for the moment, realistically, it's just a really nice way to layer things out. Now, I'm not sure if there is a spell checker on this. In fact, I'm fairly sure there's not. Oh, there is. Look at that. So you can do a spell check in here. Command I, and it'll pull it up. But it doesn't actually show you when you've spelt a word wrong. So you might want to do your writing first in a Google Docs or something like that. Get all your grammar and syntax correct, and then move it over into InDesign and treat InDesign more as the styling of it. But one thing you have to remember is you need to keep these photos in the associated file. So when you back it up, you can actually just take this entire folder and zip it. So right click and compress, and then you've got the entire video. Then you've got the entire portfolio ready to go. You can back that up and it's got every single image in it. It's got all of your associated words in your InDesign file, and you're just not going to lose them. If you have all of your images on, okay, let's look at the image that I've taken. If I move this to a different file, so it's not in the associated original space anymore, what you'll get is this question mark up the top here. And what that means is it's not linked anymore. You then need to go through and relink it, and so we'll do that now, and it's all fine. The problem is now, if I go and move it back to the folder, which inevitably I'll want to do, then I have that original issue where I need to relink it. Sometimes it will find it. Strange, it didn't unlink, but I can see that I've got an error here down the bottom that says there's a missing link. Yep. Believe it or not, the missing link was there. So I need to now go into my InDesign tutorial, images, find the link. This sort of file management is something that you really want to be doing anyway, so I don't view it as really a negative. An interesting thing just before we move on and I close off this one is the type tools in InDesign. They're actually relatively advanced. You can go into the character menu and you can change the individual letter spacing. So I can go into here and I can change the kerning. So I can go, I want those letters to be really far apart. I can go into this one in between the letters and just hold down Option, and I can make those go really close together. I can change the line height in between it. So I could make these be so they're on top of each other. I don't know why you would want to do that, but you could make that work for some sort of design idea, I guess. Or I could make them so they just clear, or even so they sit really far apart. I can change the tilt of the writing, so I can say I want to make some really crazy italics there. I can change the overall height of the letters, so I can stretch it out. I don't know why you do that once again, but anyway, and you can do that obviously on individual letters and any of those sorts of things. So you can get some interesting text effects with that. You can realistically do a whole bunch of things to just make your writing more interesting. And the good thing about this is it's just more flexible than using Google Docs. So say I want to move a picture, all I have to do is, well, I'm going to crop it. So I'm not going to crop it, I'm going to make source. So Command Shift and hold. Then I want my writing to sit in here. I want it to be that height. Go down to here. Then I want to continue the writing there. I want to insert another picture. So I'm going to place another one in. Sure, I've got an image here. I want to make it a little bit bigger. And obviously with this, you do have to worry about pixelating your images by making them too small and then increasing the size. But I can, in fact, keep moving this down and you'll see the text moves from this one up. And so realistically, over multiple pages, you can get everything kind of working together rather than fighting the program. And that's why I would suggest that you use InDesign. We could also add in a master page edge here. So we could go, all right, I want a border going there. That is going to be, I don't know, black in color. I want to keep that border on both pages. So I can just bring this one across here. And then when you go to there, you can see the border comes onto there and it just kind of works. We can insert the images however we need to do it. So obviously we want to put a little bit more space in. And you can kind of, I mean, that looks horrible, but you get the idea. So going forward, we'll get into a few of the more advanced features of InDesign. But really, once you get over the initial difficulty, it's just a much more freeing program than any of the other ones. It's a lot quicker to use to design things around. You're not constantly fighting it, and I wholeheartedly recommend that you use it for your major project.